There's already glaring issues in set 10, despite it only being out for a week now, but you will feel these issues as they will persist throughout this set. For example, set 10 will drastically nerf the number of copies of each unit in the pool, or their bag size. This will make it incredibly difficult to 3-star units you're rerolling for. So if you're even remotely contested, it will feel impossible to actually hit. This combined with how easy it is to level now makes rerolling feel completely inferior to spamming levels. But there's also issues like power bloat in Double Up, the inaccessibility of spats and emblems, and the functionality of Akali's breakout traits. But are these bag size changes even necessary? Why has rerolling become so much weaker now? And what are the other issues in this set? Before we get into that, remember to subscribe. So let's start off with by far the biggest problem with set 10, and that is the changes to the bag sizes. I'll show both the former and the new bag sizes on screen now, and you can see that this will mostly affect the 1-cost units and the 4-cost units. Of course, these changes had to be made because of the headliner mechanic instantly granting you a 2-starred unit. This made hitting 3-starred units incredibly easy. Before the bag changes, I had a game where someone sent it to level 10 and 3-starred 5 of the 8 legendary units just by rotating their headliner. This was partially due to players removing units from the pool, thus making it more and more probable for uncontested headliners of that cost to appear in the shop. So if players have many, say, 4-cost units on their board, or someone is trying to 3-star Ari, then it becomes increasingly easier for someone else to 3-star an uncontested unit like Viego out of nowhere. And you can see this by looking at how much the pool size has decreased for each unit cost. This means that it will be far more difficult to 3-star contested units, but in other words, holding units is far more effective. And with the larger nerfs to the pool size for both 1 and 4 cost units, it's incredibly advantageous to hold other units of those costs so you can reroll for an uncontested 3-star unit. But Riot did remove an insanely powerful strategy where you roll for 6 copies first, sell your current chosen, and then continue to roll until a headliner of that unit shows up. Using this strategy, players were hitting 3-star 4 and 5 cost units far more often than intended. But this fix also introduces more problems. For example, you can still do this for 1-cost units, but more importantly, contesting units would now be infinitely stronger than it was in the past. Let's say someone is rerolling for a 3-star 4 cost. If you hold just 1 copy of that unit, that player will then need to spend at least double the amount of gold rerolling, as the chance of that unit appearing has now been halved. Also, with these headliner nerfs, it can easily make acquiring a headliner unit impossible due to how many units are already removed from the pool. For example, for any 4 cost, if at least 5 units are removed from the pool, then it's impossible for that unit to appear as a headliner. So at most 2 players can have the same headliner, but it will usually just be 1 player per game. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, as that would force late game boards to be more diverse. But then the problem becomes balance. If there's a particular 4 cost that is oppressive, then being one of the 6 players who can't access that unit will feel completely awful. So if you fall behind in levels with other players in your lobby, they can take enough units out of the pool, which will then make it impossible for you to get the headliner you're looking for. And if you're trying to 3-star your headliner, it's incredibly easy and effective for your opponents to stop that altogether. They don't even have to try to do that, because some units like Echo are important centerpieces to many comps. Echo in particular is a premier tank in both True Damage and Spellweaver, so many players will play him, thus making it impossible to actually 3-star him or even get him as a headliner. I believe that these bag size changes need to be dialed back a little bit, as contesting has become far too powerful and 3-starring units will be nigh impossible. These changes will likely be the largest player complaint about set 10, as being contested is one of the worst feelings in TFT, and players will suffer from it far more often with how much stronger it has become. But even if those units are not contested, it's still very possible for players to miss when they're re-rolling, again due to the reduced bag size. Basically, it's really easy to 3-star uncontested units, especially if you hold other units, but if those units become even remotely contested, it will feel impossible to 3-star them. This leads me into the next problem, which is how weak rerolling is compared to Fast 8 or Fast 9 strategies. But this is due to many reasons. The first of which is, again, those bag size changes, where if you don't 3-star your unit quickly, well then you'll fall behind tremendously, and of course it's very easy to miss if you're contested with fewer copies in the pool. but there's also problems like 2-1 econ augments, especially prismatics like Level Up or Spoils of War, as they can permit a ridiculously efficient and fast level 8, 9 or even level 10, and you can easily hit level 9 in stage 4 when people are still rolling for their 3 stars. And these leveling strategies are safer due to the existence of headliners instantly granting you a powerful 2-star copy of a higher cost unit. Honestly, I've come to hate so many econ and leveling augments that get offered at 2-1 because they heavily reward and enable a far too fast tempo. This is due to the sheer amount of gold players can accrue and the fact that using that gold to level is far better than using it to re-roll. Even when I consider that this is just PvE and players are both new and playing greedily, leveling strategies are just far more reliable and consistent than trying to re-roll. Well, actually, that's not exactly true. I think an incredibly unhealthy reroll and leveling strategy will crop up, where you 3-star a 1 cost carry at 3-1 and then use that to send it to higher levels. This will be particularly true for 1 costs like Annie, Jinx, Corki, and especially Yasuo, as these units have stronger headliner bonuses and incredible late game scaling. So you will have a very strong board early, scale into the mid game, and coast into the late game. And this is due to levels 1 to 5 being completely unchanged, but every level beyond that is far cheaper. These level changes are an indirect nerf to 2 and 3 cost reroll as players reach higher levels sooner. And of course, once you've reached those higher levels, you can just cap out your board around legendaries. Trying to reroll 2 or 3 costs feels incredibly risky due to how often you can miss and how easily players can get ahead in levels as they need to spend substantially less gold to get there. While Riot did nerf levels 9 and 10, this will not affect the strength of 1 cost reroll and address the weaknesses of 2 and 3 cost. So set 10 does not feel like the set for reroll as it isn't nearly as reliable as it was in the past. I'll also mention a few problems that I imagine will probably get addressed in the next few patches or so. Firstly, there's many different sources of HP in this set, like through items, traits or augments. So of course boards can become extremely tanky. Now, that's not inherently problematic, but the consequential issue is the state of Giant Slayer. Giant Slayer feels like the best item in the entire set, as not only is that threshold extremely easy to hit, even on backline carries, but also Giant Slayer is incredibly flexible as this item can be utilized extremely well on both AP and AD carries, and both scaling and burst damage. I would say the same for Guard Breaker, but this item is not nearly as impactful as it feels like you're always proccing the bonus damage from Giant Slayer. Anyway, moving on, I've also noticed a gargantuan disparity between interesting and powerful portals. There's no way Gold Augment Last is even close in power to something like Multi-Talented. I mean, why would you even take Gold Augment Last? It just feels awful and a waste of a portal when most likely that last augment selection is gold anyway, or there's a chance it could be prismatic. Also, while it's not available to play right now, I am very concerned about my favourite game mode, Double Up, as I expect there to be huge issues with power bloats from portals, headliners, armories, augments, and so on. I'm also worried that set 10 will be another set that leaves many issues with Double Up unaddressed. I covered the issues back in this video from set 8, and from the lack of communicated changes for Double Up, it seems like these issues will still be present for set 10. At the very least, I hope they nerf armories, as in their current state their power is slightly weaker than augments but far more powerful than portals. Otherwise, this will result in an insane number of 3-star units and even faster leveling strategies. Actually, armories could become far stronger and warping than both augments and portals if armories can still offer tomes of traits or emblems straight up. And this is due to how extremely rare emblems and spats are in this set. Across the numerous games I've played, I've only received or crafted a handful of spats, if any. Riot have said that they will eventually add a portal that will give you a tome of traits, but that won't really change much as you still need to get offered and select that portal. Speaking of selection, Riot need to add a direct way for you to select if Akali is true damage or KDA. I've been in multiple situations where I want to play a true damage unit to activate the trait, but I can't play Akali as it just happened to have more KDA units on my board. Even though I don't want it to, Akali just becomes KDA, so I don't play Akali. I think that Akali's breakout trait is negatively affecting her play rate due to its inconsistency and lack of player agency. And I think this rule set is far more complicated than it needs to be. It would be far more simple if players had the option to choose. And I don't think this will ever be addressed in this set, but I really wish you could see headliner bonuses for every unit so you can make the most informed decision if you wanted to pivot. And that should sum up the problems I have noticed that are currently in set 10. But I do believe Riot can make changes to address every single one of these problems. For example, Riot can slightly walk back the bag size changes to prevent the incredibly frustrating situations where you can't hit your 3-star just due to lower odds. And to counterbalance the lower XP costs, Riot could slightly buff the odds for 2 and 3 cost units appearing at level 6 and 7. Regardless, the launch state of set 10 does look incredibly promising, and I'm excited to see where we go from here. But yeah, what do you think about these problems? Are you dreading the bag size changes? Will reroll truly be dead in set 10? Or am I being far too pessimistic for no reason? Let me know in the comments, and remember to subscribe. Anyway, check out these other videos if you want to see more from me, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.